Hello everyone, this is Ankit Sharma, founder of AllIndiaSolar.in, and you are watching the podcast series of All India Solar. As you know, via our podcast, we try to connect you with the solar experts, those experts who have used the solar energy to solve a problem of a society. And in this particular series, we are bringing you the SundayGrids. SundayGrid is a very amazing solar company. They have developed a very amazing solar business model. They have introduced digital solar biscuits. What are digital solar biscuits? So basically, if you do not have access to rooftop or if you do not wish to install solar at your premises, but still you want to enjoy the benefit of solar energy, you can get it through the digital solar biscuits. So let's understand what are these solar biscuits, digital solar biscuits, and how they work through them only. So thank you, Tim, for accepting the podcast request, and please let us know about digital solar biscuits and how it works.
Yeah. Hey, Ankit, firstly, thanks a lot for having us around as well. So, yeah. So, essentially, you kind of nailed it right when you mentioned it is mostly for people who wants to go solar, but right now do not have the accessibility to do so, either because they live in an apartment building where you don't have access to the rooftop, or even if you do, you live in a place where heavily shaded by trees, or your roof structure is not good enough. So there are multitudes of reasons why people often end up opting out of going solar. So essentially what where the analogy we would like to give is similar to having cloud storage, where you are somewhere and your storage be your flat pen drive or a hard disk or something in a similar fashion. Instead of that, having it on the cloud. Similarly, we wanted to leverage the internet to basically do that for solar. So typically, so now what could happen with this is that you could be anywhere in India and you could have your solar panels at a completely different direction, and yet you could still use it to basically offset your power bill and basically what you get out of solar. So this is something that we're working on. And yeah, so the way you access this asset, which is this the solar panels, is through this tokens that it's called biscuits. So biscuits are basically tiny fractions. So we take a system and we break it down into tiny fractions of it, which is what is called a biscuit. So in a current system that is on the platform, like every biscuit is like 10 watts or so. So you can come and you can subscribe to how much capacity you would want. The more the capacity, the more the offsets you get. And so you can choose how much you need according to your lifestyle, according to what you can spend on, etc. And then you can basically use that and to basically offset your power bills. So that's essentially what a biscuit is.
So, how you came to this particular idea, how this idea was generated in your mind? Like, this is a very amazing concept, and I know the concept of virtual solar power plants is coming up, and they are the future of the energy. So, I would like to
Yeah.
know, like, how you came to this particular idea.
So this is rewind back to origin story time. So now, me and Nasser, we met at Selco Foundation. It is an NGO here based in Bangalore, and we started talking about in fact we were at that point we were talking about expansion of solar energy per se. We were interested in agrivoltaics. We were interested in a lot of these up and coming technology when it comes to solar. But one thing we kind of realized, two things in fact. One is that end of the day, money matters the most when it comes to installing. Because today, if you go out to a regular person and you ask them, solar is a luxury for them, right? So solar is something that you start thinking of once you have a house of your own, once you have the basic, and also more importantly, solar's economics makes sense when you look at its 20 to 25-year lifespan, right? Which means you kind of have to also be committed to the fact that you're going to stay in that space for that long. So that kind of pushes you demographically up high. That's someone who's in their top 30s and early 40s. I mean, like that's kind of the time when they make that decision making as well. So one thing we realize is we somehow need to figure out a way to make it much cheaper to access solar. Like today, even if you want to start off, like for your house you need to add a 4 kilowatt system, 5 kilowatt system, you're easily spending 4 lakhs, etc. We need to bring that ceiling down. That was one. And second, we are like, why are we not going there? We work for an NGO that installs solar panels elsewhere. Why don't we have solar panels? And the issue was like, yeah, I mean, it's no sense. How can we have solar because we live in an apartment building, etc. So we're like, yeah, but then that's when we started tooling this out, like, hey, what if we do this? What if we do that? And then we kind of figure, oh yeah, you could. One of the major problems is if your solar panel is elsewhere and you are elsewhere, how will the electrons move? Like, how will you get the electricity out of it? And then we kind of realized, well, you technically don't need to get the electricity; you just need to get the credits. And now India has an amazing fintech stack. You have your UPI, you have your all the amazing fintech stack that you could basically transfer money and on an instantaneous manner across the country. So you could basically give it to someone else, and then they can use that credits to basically pay their power bills. And therefore, when I install solar panels on my rooftop, by using the electricity of there, I'm paying less to my discom, right? That's essentially what happens at the end of the day. So you get a more or less 1:1 from a functionality basis, like you get a 1:1 benefit out of offsetting your power bills. And they're like, yeah. So then we started tooling out. Then uh, Tarun came in and we started designing the aspect of how to interface with it, how to figure out how people interact with each of the subsystems, and so on and so forth.
So you guys have developed this model now, but at the end of the day, if you guys are installing a solar solution, you need a space. So it would be of
Mm-hmm.
some, let us say, client A, at whose
Mm-hmm.
premises you are using to install solar solution. And then
Yeah.
people, let's just say from other states, they are subscribing to that particular solar solution, and they are getting credit, and that on you, and they can use that particular credit to offset their electricity bill or whatever medium they want to use it. So what benefit that particular person is getting, whose premises, whose location you are using
Yes.
to install the solar solution, and what is the minimum capacity you are going with, like 5 kilowatt, 10 kilowatt, 20 kilowatt? What is the minimum capacity?
Yeah. So here a couple of things are happening. One is if you look in India particularly, right? You have your domestic tariffs, which is roughly around 5 to 6 rupees per person, and commercial tariffs, which are in the 10 rupees, 11 rupees range, right? So essentially, what we do is we particularly go and find these places to host these solar panels that are commercial and industrial partners. And over there, two things happen. One is that they're either a hospital, school, a factory, where they inherently have a lot of roof space, right? And so we install that then at an OPEX model. So essentially what here happens is it's a pay as you go sort of a thing where, for the power that is produced from the system, they pay a solar tariff on it. And this is the tariff then that is bypassed as, credits to all our customers as well. So for them, the benefit over here is it's much, much cheaper power than if they were to get this from the grid. Second, because since it's an OPEX model, they don't have to put that upfront cost, especially when you're talking about such a larger system, right? It's a lot more money for them. So right now, when then they have to look into the credit ratings, etc., etc. So this way, they basically can offload a lot of that from the books and they still get cheaper power without having to do such a huge upfront investment, which is not a core business operative for them as well, right? So this is the value proposition for them. And when we install them, one benefit that we get out of it is because now economics of scales kick in. Like when we install a 4 kilowatt system on a certain rooftop, and versus when we put a 100 kilowatt or 150 kilowatt system, the per unit cost of it actually decreases dramatically. So that is something that we can use to leverage to make digital solar, what we are trying to build, much cheaper than actually going and installing solar panels on your rooftop. So the range, again, to answer your question on what the capacity we are looking at somewhere from 100 kilowatt to 200 kilowatt going forward. Yeah.
That's very amazing, this model. So let's just say you are installing a 200 kilowatt solar solution,
Mhm.
and so what is your, as of now, what is your marketing way to get these people who can firstly understand this model, understand what you're doing, and then subscribe to those solar solutions? What is your marketing strategy as of now?
Yeah. So in terms of implementation, so again, we started in 2020, in December 2020, and we put up a 5 kilowatt system. And from that moment onwards, essentially what we were more focused on was on the product side of the things, to develop and make sure that we put the system up and then we sort of build the infrastructure of billing and everything, so on and so forth. So we spent most of our 2021 on the compliance side of things to make sure that what we are building, because since there's a transfer of money and credit and such, we need to make sure that they're extremely compliant with the regulations in the country. At the same time, we had to build the tech stack to make sure this could work out. So that's where our core focus was. and so therefore we didn't spend so much effort in terms of marketing. However, and yet, like in September, October time, we got our entire first system that we put up as a pilot completely subscribed. Now, what we're looking into, and in the process of doing that, I would not call it a marketing directive per se, but rather from talking to our customers, like to people who have purchased biscuits, and we go and ask them, hey, why did you do it, and so forth. A couple of things that we realize is that because we can bring this, one of the things that we could really engage with is other developers here in the case of like, installers and EPC players, etc. Because typically, even in their case, right, only around 5 to 10% of the entire customer base converts, right? They actually go and install, get solar panels. And that means like 90% of them is the demand is left untapped. And that's mostly happens because of constraints, either technical constraints, but more importantly, financial constraints, which is something that because of our fractionization, we can really solve out. So essentially, what we are now looking into is to partner with them more often, get them on board with our platform, and create an affiliation program as well, so that the leads that they often get, they're already quite aware of what solar is, because that's, and which is why they're going to these developers, right? So that's one thing that we're looking into. Also, what we're also seeing is, when you look at the macro view of things, like especially post-pandemic, people's awareness onto financial systems have also quite increased. People investing in stocks have increased, and crypto has increased. At the same time, fractionalized assets has become a topic of conversation as well. So in general, people's awareness of fractionalization and as such how assets work and etc. have been on the rise. So we do see that as a anchor point for our future expansion as well.
So coming to the point, like let us say if someone someone has installed a solar, you have installed a solar solution of 150 kilowatt. Now that would require some investment. So first you will install the solar solution, and then people will start subscribing it. So in particular, like just say after 1 month or 2 months or maybe 3 months, the entire investment which was required to install the entire infrastructure, that is covered up first of all, and then from that particular point people will start getting the returns, and the host will also start getting the benefit. Is it the case, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yes.
yeah, this is very amazing business model. Like really, when I learned about your business model, I was like, yeah, I need to get to know more about it, because it is a very unique business model. And as I said in at very first, like people are very skeptical about installing solar solution, because they feel like, okay, they won't be able to use rooftop, like in the summer evening they sit on the rooftop. Many people have their gardens and everything. So
Yeah.
with the solar install on the rooftop, they it becomes inaccessible. So
Yeah.
many times I have seen this, that people do not install solar because they want to use the rooftop. And
Yeah.
okay, there are a lot of people who do not have access to roof.
Yeah.
Both can now enjoy the benefit of solar energy with your business model, which is very amazing, right? So thank you for developing this entire business model. It has opened up a new amazing venues. Maybe on a larger scale, now investors will start looking at as investing on virtual solar power plants, which is coming up in the near future. What's your thinking about virtual solar power plants? Like you have developed a virtual solar power plant for
Yeah.
the subscribers.
Yeah. Very excited actually. We got, I mean, when you look at it internationally, community solar is a huge aspect, right? Even though it's still, microgrids do exist, but as in a whole, community solar in India is still up and coming. And then we were also very excited. I remember when virtual net metering became a thing, that the Delhi government especially said, yeah, cool, you know what, we can try this out. So we've been keeping an eye out for it. We've been talking to some of the ground partners over there who has been trying to implement virtual net metering, etc. So that is something that we are looking with quite keen eyes. In fact, I mean, that's something that with very minimal tooling that we can also incorporate what we are trying to build along with it. So that's something that we're interested. At the same time, what we also realize is, especially with solar, right? At least, I mean, this is our viewpoint, is that your regulatory landscape plays the most important aspect, more than economics, more than anything else, like regulatory aspect. So and also the kind of expansion for these things are quite haphazardly done, right? Like Delhi has said yes, but neither has surrounding areas nor. So there's no way a system that is in Delhi that someone who, one of us in Bangalore, can use it, etc. So though internally we kind of joke it like virtual net metering is there, but what we are trying to build is virtual gross metering in a way, because now what happens is it's essentially your credits that keep moving, and credits, because of its inherent property of being able to move anywhere around, you basically have a much wider distribution. But that being said, net metering is something, virtual net metering is something that we are quite excited to see expand out, especially in the new Electricity Act and everything. To see a lot more peer-to-peer stuff happening is pretty interesting.
So seeing your entire business model, something just came up in my mind. Like, there is a section in the solar industry, like let's just say people who have already installed solar solution, like in 2, 3 or 4 years back. Now, if
Yeah.
they want to sell their solar solution, okay, in the to you guys, like okay, saying that okay, I have a 5 kilowatt solar solution, I want to sell it to you so that you can bring subscribers to it, and whatever investment I did on solar, I can get covered up. And let us say if I have taken up, because we do not have particular solar loans, we
Mhm.
if for the off-grid solar solutions, we do not have subsidy, we do not have any kind of particular solar loans, we have to go through the personal loan, which interest
Yeah.
is very high. So
Yeah.
that lasts for like 7 years, 8 years, sometimes 10 years. Solar is
Mhm.
for 20 years, 25 years. So let us say I have a 5 kilowatt solar solution installed and I would like to sell it to you so that you can sell
Mhm.
it to your subscribers. Will it be possible?
Right now we are looking at it as like our core and main responsibility is towards the people, the patrons, the who come to our site and subscribe to it, right? So we have a couple of directives that we have, which is like we ensure that they get good IRR, and then second, they don't have any operational hassles, etc. So I think Nasir would be better to explain more on the economics bit of it. But what we want
Yeah,
is, as long as we can, yeah, as long as the economics match up, and second, the system is in a really good condition that can be transferred, then I mean, from a technical aspect, there isn't something holding this back.
yeah, because there are a lot of people who are installing solar solution. Let's just say
Yeah.
they have like 1 year old solar solution, and
Yeah.
we know like from the maintenance side, from the any kind of technicality side, it like 2 or 3 years. After 2 or 3 years, there is a proper maintenance required. But for one
Yeah.
year old solar solution, there isn't any kind of maintenance required. But still,
Yeah.
you can do a certain kind of audit to understand
Yes.
if the system is working properly or not. If someone has 1 year old or 2 year old solar solution, they would like to sell that solar solution to this particular business model where and get the return and pay off their whatever they have taken a loan from
Loans
the
and
bank
everything.
or
Yeah.
from micro banks or maybe individuals also, because
Yeah.
nowadays people are also interested to take loans from individuals to set up solar solution, because energy crisis is going to happen. People have seen, we were on the verge of
With the
major
coal
power cuts because
depleting.
of
Yeah.
the lack of coal. Energy
Yeah.
crisis is going to happen because in India we do have the option to generate power, but we do not have power option to store it. Energy storage is one of
Yeah.
the biggest issues in India. So at that
Yeah.
particular time, if I have installed a solar solution at my premises or at my office, building, corporate, or commercial, I would like to sell it to you guys. So I
Yeah.
think that would be something interesting to see if
Yeah.
someone is willing to sell the entire solar solution to use and you can get subscribers on that particular solar solution.
Yeah, I think like Matthew was selling, it's more financial in this case because right now we're more focused towards giving the subscribers better returns on their investments or whatever this is. So I mean, again, we're looking to sign PPAs for 15 to 20 years at, something that gives a 14% IRR over 15 to 20 years. So if this people who are willing to sell sort of their system matches this requirement of us, we're definitely, I think, looking forward to onboard them. I think that should be totally fine.
That would be a totally new venue for like to you guys also and to those people as well, because they have to pay the loans. At the end
Yeah.
of the day, everything comes down to the money. How
Yes.
much they are generating.
Right.
And on the I'm very much vocal about the micro solar grids, because if you have seen my previous contents about micro solar grids, I have developed an ebook as well about micro solar grids, because I'm very much vocal about it, because I strongly believe micro solar grids can solve the energy crisis and can fill up the gaps of energy in India. And micro solar grids can also be connected with your model, because it's more of a financial kind of model which you have developed rather than a physical kind of model.
So,
So I would like to see all these things in upcoming years, and please make all this happen because you have to do it. There is no one else to you guys
In
have to
fact,
do
one
it.
of the initial discussions we were having, Matthew and I, was sort of to start off this as a microgrid, and people can subscribe it throughout India, and this is a microgrid serving some remote area. But then the problem with that was a bit more on the operation side, maintaining and all of that. But then once we figured that part out, and then definitely I think this system can be implemented with that.
Yeah.
It's very amazing. So coming to the commercial part, I would like to understand a bit more about the commercial part. Let's say if we see the commercial electricity rates, they are very like more than 10 rupees per unit, like 10 rupees per unit. And if you guys are installing a solar solution in the commercial area, their rate will be different. If there is a net metering, the rate will be different from the rate if someone has installed on a, let's just say, on a residential sector. So does your subscribers get to know that, okay, where their solar solution like come into the picture, like, okay, is it under the commercial or it is under the residential sector? Will they get to know about it?
Yeah, before they subscribe to it, they basically get a download on everything. And where is it situated? What has been the historic power generation that has been? Or in fact, even after they subscribe, if you come to our dashboard, you can see a day-to-day power generation. You can see a day-to-day how many credits have been allocated, etc. So all the data is basically transferred to them on at real time. And at the same time, before they commit into a system, right? We basically give them the entire what is the make of the panels, what is the the capacity, the entire project size, etc. So they get all sorts of information pertaining to the making a purchase decision upfront before they make even though. So yeah, they have the data before they can do that kind of stuff.
So there is a limit to the minimum, like it's a 10-watt biscuit. Is there any
Mhm.
cap for maximum, like, okay, 1 kilowatt or 2 kilowatt? Is there a maximum limit as well?
No. So, as I mentioned, we put up a pilot system, right? So, with a pilot system, our goal was to get as many users rather than get users who can get as much capacity, right? Because if we get more the users, more we can learn from them, understand their niche problems, and then try to iterate for it. So, for that particular and that reason alone, we basically put a cap for our pilot, which is around 50 biscuit. But for the next upcoming systems that we are planning to install, we are planning to have no cap. So basically, they can offset up to the entirety of their power bills.
But if there would be a cap, I think there would be more chances of having more people because let us say uh, it's a 10 kilowatt solar solution.
Mhm.
Like people have the capacity from the industrial sector. One person can subscribe to the entire power plant. But if there is a limit there is a upper limit as well. This will give more and more people to chance to subscribe to a solar power plant. So I think that is something which of course you will figuring out in because you have just started as you have told it. It's a learning process. Solar is a very learning process. And day by day you learn new things, new policy comes up, and new people come up with a new new thought process. So yeah, of course that you can see as well.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So that was all. I mean, I don't think there's anything else I would like to know. Of course, I will subscribe to your website and all of your content. I'll be viewing it to understand what's going on. But I think I have covered all the questions which my viewers or maybe whosoever is interested to know, they would like to know. So thank you for developing this entire concept of digital solar biscuits. It is totally new, and I think it has the capability to change the entire face of Indian solar industry because people want solar, but they have a lot of constraint, location, space availability. Like I know personally, one of my known, they have a load of like 12 kilowatt to 15 kilowatt, but the area which they have, it can only support like 6 kilowatt only, so they
Mm.
cannot adopt solar. But I think with your business model, your model, they can enjoy that benefit of solar. So thank you again for developing this entire model.
Hey,
Hey, thanks
thanks for
for
having us over. Yeah, yeah. So here's my viewpoint on this. I was pretty excited to see what you were building, precisely because one thing that we see, right, is how do you even talk about digital solar if people don't know about solar, right? education, climate education is extremely important. In fact, I mean, more than techno fixes, more than policy fixes, people getting educated is the most important part, because only then, we can make systemic level changes. So climate education is super important, and on top of that, solar education is even more so, because then now we're talking about, okay, how can you take uh, conceptual level things into real life applications for people on the ground. So, and to be honest, we don't have enough content out there, especially an Indian context based content out there, that basically fits the needs that this has an issue. So it was pretty interesting to see all in solar, like this is pretty great. All India solar is pretty great. So yeah, I mean, all the best to you as well. Like, let's get the movement rising again.